The moment I became radioactive in the league happened on a Tuesday. Not during a playoff game or a championship celebration, but in a sterile conference room with ergonomic chairs that squeaked whenever anyone shifted their weight. "Diane, you've been the backbone of this franchise for 11 years, said Victor Webb, his manicured fingers forming a steeple on the polished table. The Denver altitude owner never made eye contact during hard conversations. "But," I said, because there's always a but we're going in a different direction. His eyes flicked to Tanya Ross, our GM who'd once been my teammate before her knees gave out and she migrated to the front office. She at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Different direction means younger," I translated. At 35, I wasn't ancient by any measurement except professional sports. My stats haven't declined. I led the league in assists last season. My three-point percentage is still at 42%. "It's not just about the numbers," Tanya said, her voice soft. "We need the cap space for Zoe's contract extension and for the rookies." I nodded, keeping my face neutral despite the heat spreading beneath my skin. Zoe Alvarez, our shooting guard. 23. Instagram famous. Dating a music producer. Good player, sure, but not irreplaceable. I wasn't naive. Basketball is a business, and businesses discard parts that aren't shiny and new. But something about their explanation didn't add up. I'd taken pay cuts twice to help the team sign key players. My current contract was already below market value. "I appreciate everything you've done," Victor continued, sliding a folder across the table. "We've prepared a statement about your retirement. Very celebratory. Career highlights, your charity work, everything. My retirement. Not my release. Not a trade. Already written without my input." "I'm not retiring," I said. Victor's expression tightened. "Diane, be reasonable. No team is going to offer you a starter contract at your age. This way, you go out at Denver altitude, your jersey in the rafters someday. I'll take my chances." I stood up, leaving the folder untouched. "Don't write my ending for me." 3 weeks later, my agent called with news. The Columbus Cascade wanted me. Not as a starter, but not as bench decoration either. Sixth woman, veteran leadership, mentorship role with significant minutes. The pay was less than half what I'd made in Denver, but it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about proving them wrong. And more importantly, about something that had been nagging at me since that meeting. The Cascades' offer came with an unexpected bonus, playing with Jasmine Washington, my former teammate from the Olympic squad. Jazz was one of the few players my age still valued in the league, probably because centers typically had longer shelf lives than point guards. "So it's true, the mighty Diane Caldwell, exiled from the mountains," Jazz said when I walked into the Columbus practice facility for the first time. Her smile took the sting out of her words. "Their mistake is our gain." "Just needed a change of scenery," I said, the rehearsed line falling flat. Jazz's eyebrow arched. "Save the PR speak. This is me you're talking to." That night, over drinks at her condo in Lewis Center, overlooking Alum Creek Lake, I told her everything. "Something's not right with their finances," I concluded, swirling the wine in my glass. "They couldn't afford Zoe's extension, the 2 first-round picks, and that mid-season trade for Carson's contract. Even with me gone, the numbers don't work." Jazz considered this. "You think they're cooking the books? Or circumventing salary cap rules somehow?" Victor made his fortune in tech, but he's been losing money on other investments. The altitude is his prestige project. He wouldn't let the team underperform. "So what's your plan? File a complaint with the league?" I shook my head. "Not without evidence. They'd dismiss it as sour grapes from a cut player." "You want revenge," Jazz said. It wasn't a question. I met her eyes. "I want the truth. If the revenge happens to taste sweet along the way, I won't complain." The first piece fell into place during our preseason game against Denver. Tanya approached me after warm-ups, her expression a careful mix of professional courtesy and guilt. You look good in blue, she offered. Better than retirement gold? I replied. She winced. Victor shouldn't have pushed that narrative. For what it's worth, I fought to keep you. Not hard enough. I turned to leave, then paused. How's Zoe's extension working out? Complicated. She's got some special considerations in her contract. Like what? Tanya glanced around. Performance incentives, marketing obligations. Creative structuring. Creative enough to fit under the cap. Her eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? Nothing. Just curious how the math works. I smiled. Good catching up, Tanya. Walking away, I filed away her reaction. Defensive. Nervous. The first thread to pull. The season progressed, and so did my investigation. Jazz introduced me to Keisha Taylor, our team's assistant financial officer, who became an invaluable resource. Most exotic contract structures are legal, Keisha explained during one of our covert lunch meetings. Deferred payments, performance bonuses, trade kickers. It's when money changes hands outside the reported contract that you run into problems. Like under-the-table payments? Or phantom marketing deals. Player gets a separate contract for promotional services through a company the owner controls. Money doesn't count against the cap but compensates the player all the same. I thought about Victor's network of tech companies and startups. How would you track something like that? Keisha shrugged. Follow unusual money patterns. Look for players getting paid for promotional work they never seem to do. This led me to my next accomplice, Riley Caldwell, no relation, a sports data analyst and my cousin's girlfriend. She had access to marketing databases showing which players appeared in which campaigns, and more importantly, which ones didn't. Your Zoe Alvarez is listed as a brand ambassador for Helios Tech Solutions, Riley said, sending me screenshots. Paid consultancy work for their sports analytics division. 7 figures annually. The whole salary cap per team was in the low 7 figures. Never heard of them. Not surprising. They're a subsidiary of Webcore Industries, which is owned by Victor Webb, I finished. The puzzle pieces were aligning. By mid-season, our team was performing beyond expectations, currently 4th in the standings. Denver was 2nd, their stacked roster delivering on their potential. We'd be facing them in a nationally televised game after the All-Star break, the perfect stage for the next phase. I needed someone inside Denver, someone with access but nothing to lose. I found her in Vanessa Dixon, the team's veteran athletic trainer who'd been with the organization for 20 years. Victor is cutting the medical staff budget next season, she told me over encrypted messages. After all I've given this team, they're reducing my hours and benefits. I'll help you. Vanessa couldn't access financial records, but she had something equally valuable, relationships. The equipment manager, the travel coordinator, the facilities director, all part of her network, all with pieces of information that seemed innocuous in isolation. A separate charter flight for Zoe to accommodate her schedule. A phantom injury that kept her out of community service events but not games. Training equipment purchased through a specific vendor at inflated prices. The vendor is registered to Zoe's brother, Vanessa confirmed. They created it 3 months before signing the contract. I was building a case, but still needed concrete financial evidence. That came from an unexpected source, Victor Webb himself. Diane Caldwell, he said, approaching me at the All-Star Weekend charity gala. Is Columbus treating you well? Can't complain, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Though I miss the mountains sometimes. You were always diplomatic. He sipped his champagne. I've been wondering if you might be interested in a post-playing opportunity. Your basketball IQ would be valuable in a front office role. I raised an eyebrow. With Denver? Not immediately. I have other ventures that could use your expertise. Sports analytics, player development programs. He lowered his voice. The kind of opportunity that could set you up very comfortably. Why me? I asked. You have a team full of basketball minds. Because you understand discretion and loyalty. His eyes hardened slightly. And you've been asking questions about our cap management. My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression neutral. Just trying to understand the business side better for when I do retire. Of course. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Let me send you some information on what I'm building. Perhaps we can turn this unfortunate parting into a beneficial relationship. Later that night, I received an email from his private account containing documents about a player development initiative. Buried within the proposal were references to payment structures that perfectly matched what I'd been investigating, a smoking gun delivered by the very man I was trying to expose. Victor hadn't sent me a job offer. He'd sent me a bribe disguised as an opportunity, and in doing so, confirmed everything. The game against Denver was circled on everyone's calendar, but for me, it was more than a grudge match. It was the stage for the final act. In the visitors' locker room before the game, I gathered our Columbus squad. There's something you should know, I began, looking at each teammate. This isn't just another game for me. I explained everything, the suspicious contracts, the hidden payments, the salary cap violations that allowed Denver to stack their roster unfairly. I've submitted evidence to the league office, I concluded. An investigation will be announced tomorrow. Why tell us now? Asked our rookie starting point guard. Because tonight isn't about revenge or whistleblowing. It's about basketball. I looked around the circle. They built a super team by cheating the system. Let's show them what a real team looks like. The game was everything I'd hoped for. We played like our careers depended on it, crisp passes, aggressive defense, total focus. By halftime, we led by 11 points, with me contributing 5 points, 6 assists and 2 steals in nearly 9 minutes played off the bench. In the third quarter, Denver adjusted. Zoe started guarding both me and our starting point guard full court. She trash-talked me with every step. Heard you've been investigating us, she said as we waited for a free throw. Still bitter about getting cut? Just curious how you afford that new beach house on your reported salary, I replied. Her eyes widened slightly before narrowing. You don't know what you're talking about. The league office disagrees. They received quite the documentation package this morning. The momentary shock on her face cost Denver the next possession. She was distracted, a step slow, and I exploited it with a drive and dish that resulted in an easy layup. By the fourth quarter, word had somehow spread through the arena. Journalists were checking their phones, whispering to each other. The Denver coaching staff huddled in intense conversation during timeouts, with Victor Webb conspicuously absent from his usual courtside seat. With 30 seconds remaining and Columbus up by 3 points, Denver had possession. Zoe, trying to force a game-tying three, telegraphed her pass. I intercepted it and dribbled out the clock as the buzzer sounded. Game over. Columbus 84, Denver 81. As we lined up for the post-game handshakes, Tanya caught my eye from the sideline. Her expression wasn't anger but resignation. She knew what was coming. The league announced its investigation the following morning. By afternoon, sports networks were running the story as breaking news. By evening, Victor Webb had released a statement denying all allegations while announcing a temporary leave of absence from day-to-day operations. 3 weeks later, the league confirmed everything: improper payments, circumvention of salary cap rules, falsified marketing contracts. The penalties were severe: loss of draft picks, substantial fines, and a restructuring of multiple player contracts. I watched the commissioner's press conference from our team facility in Columbus, surrounded by teammates and staff who had become accomplices and friends. You actually did it, Jazz said, shaking her head in admiration. We did it, I corrected. I couldn't have gathered all the evidence without help. The fallout continued for months. Victor eventually sold the team. Tanya resigned. Zoe and several other players faced contract renegotiations that brought their compensation in line with cap rules. Denver, once championship contenders, became rebuilders overnight. The playoffs arrived with Columbus as unexpected contenders. We weren't the most talented roster on paper, but we had something more valuable: trust in each other and a backup point guard with something to prove. Before our first playoff game, I received a text from an unknown number: "You could have taken the deal. Instead, you chose to burn everything down." I didn't need the signature to know it was Victor. My reply was simple: I didn't burn anything. I just shined a light. As I stepped onto the court for player introductions, the announcer's voice boomed through the arena: a 13-year veteran, 6-time All-Star, Olympic gold medalist, and starting tonight at point guard, Diane Caldwell. The cheers washed over me like a wave, but it wasn't the applause that mattered. It was the knowledge that I had reclaimed my story. Victor had tried to write my ending as a quiet retirement, a former star fading away. Instead, I had written a different chapter, one where the game was played fairly, where age couldn't be used as an excuse to discard someone who still had value, and where the truth, however inconvenient, eventually came to light. I hadn't just gotten revenge. I'd gotten justice. And as I joined the starting lineup circle, slapping hands with teammates who had become co-conspirators and allies, I realized something important: revenge might have been my motivation, but integrity was my legacy. The referee tossed the ball up for the opening tip-off. Game on. Please like and subscribe for more great petty revenge stories. The creator is a fan of the WNBA, the teams, and the players that make up the league. This story was entirely fictional and not meant to cast any bad light on any WNBA team or individual. The creator would love to see a team in Columbus in the future. Please let her know in the comments your favorite team or the city where you would like to see an expansion team.